This is a video to show how to make the light up photo memory cubes. I'll try to show you step by step. It's really not a hard project. You will need some black cardstock. I just purchased regular cardstock and a pad from Walmart. You'll need tea light candles. I got a 2-pack for $1 at Dollar Tree, and I do use 2 tea light candles per cube. You'll need glue to glue your project together. I like the Zig glue pen that has the chisel tip. I bought this at Hobby Lobby. You'll need vellum, and you can buy that in a pack from Hobby Lobby, which is the type paper that lets the light shine through. You'll be printing your copies onto that of your photos. And when you use your Cricut, you'll be using the shapes button and using the square to create frames and to create hinges that have score lines down the middle that make them easy to fold in half to make a hinge to connect your sides together, and also a hinge that will go on the top. You'll have 4 of those to attach your top piece that will go on the top. The first thing you'll need to do for this project is upload some photos, so make sure you have the photos that you want to use on your computer. As you can see here, I've already got some photos of my uncles, and that's I've used some of these photos on my photo cubes. So you will just need to use those, and you would upload an image, and you can pull that image into Design Space and use the tools to clean out the background. As you can see here, my uncle, he had a lot of scenery behind him, and I had used the tools to erase all of that and leave only his image on the horse. Once you have your images, you can choose them by clicking on them. So I'll just click 4 images and then click on the green button that says Insert Images, and that will bring your photos to your work mat. So these are some photos that I had worked with. These are in color, but when you print them, you will be setting your printer to print in grayscale. So all of your photos will print in grayscale. I think that gives it a good look. I've moved all my photos to the right side of my work mat, and I'm going to click on Shapes and then click on Square. And then I'm going to highlight by clicking on the square, and I'm going to set the size for my square by going up to the top, and you'll see it looks like a lock. So just click on that lock to unlock it, and then you would set your width and your height. For my smaller cube, I did the width 4.5 and I did the height 5.5. So I'm just putting 4.5 and 5.5 in, and then I will click the lock again to lock in that measurement. Next, we're going to be turning this square into a frame that has a hole in the center, and so I'm going to click off of that square. I'm going to go back to Shapes, and I'm going to choose another square. And so that's giving me another square. And to be able to see this square better on top of the black, since I'm going to be using this smaller square over the larger square, I'm going to go to the right side of my screen, and I'm going to click that blue highlighted area so that I can change the color of that square that I just created. And I'm just going to pick a bright color. I'll pick the mango, and you can see that now my square has changed to the mango color. And just click anywhere on your work mat and it will make the color screen go away. And then just click on the mango, that second square, whatever color you pick to use, and then you will need to move it by clicking on it and holding down, and move it inside of your square. And just the easiest way I found is to just use the click and drag a little bit, and you may have to unlock so that you can go over here and use the green arrow button, and then you can stretch it down. And you don't want to let your edges get too thin, or it's going to be hard to work with, and then your photo cube is not going to be very sturdy. So just pick kind of what you think looks good, and don't worry about centering that too much just yet, because I'm going to click off, and then I'm going to click outside the map, and then just click and drag, and then let off. And then I'm going up here to align, and then I'm going to go down to center, and then that will automatically center the smaller square inside the larger square. Then, in order to cut this out so that our photo will be able to show through, I'm going to click and drag to highlight that again, and then I'm going to go down to the bottom of the screen where it says slice. I'm going to click on slice, and then I can click on this mango square, click and drag it away and get rid of it because I don't need it. Click the center again, drag it away, delete it, I don't need that, and that leaves my frame. Okay, I've reduced my screen to 50%, and this is showing the frame that we just made. And all you'll need to do is, of course, we're going to need 4 frames. So I click on that to highlight it and go over to my menu, and you'll see where it says duplicate. And so click on duplicate, and you'll see that we now have 2 frames. So if you're going to do that 2 more times, duplicate, click 2 times, and now we have our 4 frames. So I'll just slide those apart. Alright, so now we will need to make our top square. So now we have our 4 frames that will be connected for the sides of the cube, so now we need to make the top. So I'm going to click on one of my frames, go to the right side to above the menu there where it says duplicate, and click to make a 5th frame. But we do need to change the size of this frame because it needs to be a square that will fit on the top, so it's not going to be the same size as the frames around the side. The square on the top will have sides that match the width, which was a measurement of 4.5. So I have my frame highlighted. I go back up to the lock button at the top of the screen, click it to unlock it, and width is already set to 4.5, so just go to the height and change that to 4.5. Click the lock button again to lock those measurements, and we now have the top frame for our cube. Next, you'll need to add your photographs to your frames, and all you do is click on a photograph, drag it into one of your frames, kind of putting the top, and I do my left side, getting it where I want it to be, then release. You unlock it so that you have the green arrow button, and then just move your photo until it fits the frame the way that you want it to be, and then release. And when you have it the way that you want it, just leave your photo that size. The next step is to choose what you want to go on the top of your cube. I use the words "Memories of You Light Up My Life." You can actually put another design, another photo, other words, but if you want to do words like I did, you would simply click on text and then type in what you want, and then you can go up and choose under font to choose how you want it to look, and under style you can choose if you want it to look bold or italicized or just regular. But anyway, just play with it and pick something that looks nice to you. And then again, you're just going to click on that, move it inside the frame. I don't move my words real close to the edges because I want them to kind of pop out a little bit more. I'm unlocking using the green arrow button and just moving that until I get it where I like it. And then release, and there's my top. The next step is to go back to Shapes, choose a square, and I'm going to drag that square down where we can see it. I'm going to again go to the right side of my screen and click on that highlighted area with the color dot. This time when you change the color of your square, choose white. Now I have a white square. Click anywhere to make the color screen disappear. I have a white square. I need to set the measurements for that square. So I'm going to the top, clicking the unlock button. I'm going to set the measurement so that this white square matches the size of my frame, which was 4.5 by 5.5. So I'm just putting in 4.5 by 5.5 for my width and height, hitting the lock button to save the measurements. So now this is the same size as my frame. I'm going to need one of these for each of the frames. So since I have that set, I'm going to use my duplicate button and duplicate 3 more times so that I have one for each frame, as you can see. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to line that up over your frame. I found this to be the easiest. Go to the top of your screen, hit Arrange, click on Arrange, and click on Move to Back. Then what you're going to do is click on the black frame and drag it away. That's going to leave your photo on that white square that you just created. Click outside of that, hold down and drag to highlight your photo on the white square. Go to the bottom of your screen on the right side and click Attach, and then click Flatten. You can then click on your frame, drag it back up, match it back up, and go back up to Arrange and click on Move to Front. And you can click outside of your frame, hold down, drag to highlight, go to the top of your menu and click on Group. That has now grouped all of that together. You will need to repeat that to move these white squares behind your photos, and then you'll also need to make a white square that's going to fit behind the top. We will also need a white square to go behind our top, so we can just click on one of our white squares, go over to Duplicate at the top of the menu screen, and drag that new white square down, but we will need to size that to fit our top. And so the size of our top is 4.5 by 4.5. So I have my white square highlighted. I go back up to the top, click on the lock button. The width is already set to 4.5, and so all I need to do is change the height to 4.5. Click on Lock, and now my white block, my white square fits my top. To be able to attach my words to my white square to make my top, first of all, I'm going to need to, let me drag my white square out of the way. I'm going to need to click on my words and then go over to the right side of my screen, and you'll notice the blue part that's highlighted, which is specifying my words, has a pair of scissors for the symbol. I need to change that to print. So I need to click on the scissors, go up to the top of the color screen, and it's currently underlining cut. So I need to change that to print. So I'm going to go over to the print symbol and click, and that will change to a printer symbol. So that needs to be done first before you try to attach this white square to the back of your words like we did to attach the white square to the back of our photos. So now, after I've made that change for my words, I again just drag my square over the shape, go up to Arrange, and click Move to Back. I drag my black frame away. I click outside of my white square, hold and drag to cover the white square with my words, And again, I go over to the bottom of my screen on the right hand side and click Attach and Flatten. Then I can put my black frame back on, same as I did for my photos above. Go back up to Arrange and click Move to Front, and then I can click outside of my frame, hold down and drag, and go back to the top and click Group above my menu. And now I have that all attached as I did my photos. Next, we need to make our hinges to connect all of our frames together. So we will need 4 hinges for the sides, and we will need 4 hinges to connect to our top. What we do is we go to Shapes and choose Square. And we're going to set the size for that square by going up to the top and clicking on the lock to unlock it. And we're going to set the height to be the same height as the sides of our frame. So we need to change that height to 5.5 because that's the height of each frame. And then the width, we want to make it where we will be able to glue this rectangle to connect 2 of the frames together, and a good size for that is 0.772. 0.772 for the width. And so I'm going to lock that. And as you can see, if I move 2 frames close together and I take this hinge that I just made, it's going to overlap without sticking out into where the photograph is with the vellum, so that the hinge will not show. Alright, the next thing that we need to do to that hinge is we need to make a score line so that it will fold easily. So we go back over and click on Shapes and then click on Score Line. And then we drag that score line down and we just kind of center it. And we can drag so that our score line runs end to end and in the center. And I know that's going to be very difficult to see on this video, but we have a score line that's centered right down the middle. Click off of that, hold and drag, and go over to the bottom of your screen on the right hand side and click Attach. That will attach the score line to that rectangular hinge. We will need 4 of these hinges, and actually we'll make 5 of them because we will resize one of the hinges to make our 4 hinges for the top. So to do that, we'll just use our duplicate button again at the top right of your screen. Click duplicate until you have 5 hinges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And I'm just going to move these hinges up to where they're going to go. This one's going to be glued to the end of that. This will hold those 2 frames together. This will hold these 2 frames together. This will hold these 2 frames together. And let's go back to the extra one that we created and resize it so we can make 4 hinges for our top. So again, I go back up to the lock button, and I'm going to just change the height to be 4.5 instead of 5.5 because our top is 4.5 inches on each side. So then I hit the lock again, and as you can see, it matches the side. And we're going to make 4 of those. So use the duplicate button again, upper right, until you have 4 hinges. And again, all of these already have the score line because we had attached those before we duplicated, so everything has its score line. And so these will go around our top. I'm not going to bother turning those sideways, but we'll have 4 to go around our top. Now that all of the pieces are created, you're almost ready to send it to your Cricut, but you'll be printing the photos on the vellum first. So you'll need to go into your printer settings and change the setting for printing to grayscale. I think that gives the photos a good look. You could go ahead and print these in color. I haven't tried that. I just like the grayscale look. But now would be the time to check your printer settings to get it ready to print. And then after setting your printer, all you're going to do is go up and click on the green Make It button. Now you're ready to click the Make It button at the top right of your screen, and that's going to tell you that it's sorting your mats, and you'll see your first picture that's going to print on the vellum, and you'll just need to click the green Continue button at the bottom right of your screen, and you will need to click on the green button that says Send to Printer. And once you do that, you'll need to choose which printer you're sending it to. And the main thing is, where this says bleed, you will want to be sure to turn off the bleed. So click where that little slide button is so that it goes off and does not bleed. And then you click Print. So be sure to have your vellum loaded in your printer and click Print. And you'll just continue that to print all of your photos onto the vellum. Continue using your Cricut to cut out all of the black pieces. I do not have the Cricut cut the vellum sheets. I leave the sheets full, and I find that they're easier to work with that way. And I just simply take one of my frames that's going to go around this photo, and I put glue on the back with my glue pen, and then I carefully lay it in place. And I guess I should say too, when you print on vellum, you want to print with it on high quality, and you will need to be careful when you remove it from your printer and lay it somewhere flat to dry. Let the ink dry well before you start working with it so you don't get any smears. And then, like I said, I would just have glue on the back of my frame. I would put it into place and just smooth down all the edges so that it's very smooth on my flat vellum, and let that dry. And then I just simply take a pair of scissors and trim around my frame. I find that's the easiest way to do this part. Crease all of your hinges down the middle where the score lines were, and then you'll be ready to start gluing the pieces to your vellum that's enclosed in the frames. And when you glue it together, this is looking down inside the cube. You'll have the 4 hinges around, which is your top, which is the bottom looking down into it now, but that's your top. And then you can see that all the hinges are on the inside. I did not glue any hinges that go around on the outside. They are all enclosed on the inside. So your glue will go down each side of your hinge, and then you will glue it in place. And so in the interest of trying to keep this video a little bit shorter, I will stop there.